Welcome to the fourth in our summer series of Frost Place online faculty readings. This evening, we're featuring the faculty of the Writing Intensive, which is associated with our conference on poetry and teaching. My name is Dawn Potter. I direct the conference, and I am thrilled to present readings tonight by Cleopatra Mathis and Sydney Lee. Cleopatra was born and raised in Ruston, Louisiana, and has lived in New England since 1980. She is the author of 8 books of poems. The most recent is After the Body, Poems New and Selected, forthcoming this summer. Her many awards and prizes include a Guggenheim Fellowship, 2 fellowships from the National Endowment for the Arts, and 2 Pushcart Prizes. Her poems have appeared widely in journals, magazines, and anthologies, including The New Yorker, The Threepenny Review, The Georgia Review, The Southern Review, Plowshares, Best American Poetry, and The Extraordinary Tide, Poetry by American Women. She founded the creative writing program at Dartmouth College, and she lives with her family in East Thetford, Vermont. Cleopatra, welcome.
Thank you, Dawn. It's a real pleasure to be here. I see people clapping. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be part of this. I've really enjoyed it so far. I'm going to read the new section of my new book, or not the whole new section, but part of the new poems in the new book. They all have to do with illness, I'm afraid. And I don't like to really explain a lot, so I'm not going to talk very much between poems. I will say that they do refer to Parkinson's disease, which is, has been a problem for the last several years. And they often refer to the different aspects of that disease. One is dyskinesia, which is a side effect actually of the only medication that they have for Parkinson's, which is carbidopa-levodopa. And you probably know that dyskinesia is random motions and movements that you can't control. So when you hear that word, you'll know what it means. The difference. Terrifying to have oneself give way. Old boat, which has carried me around, stubborn at the helm. Self, the great spirit finder, haphazard navigator. In the end, a hand dragging in the water. Energy, I thought, was her great strength, her voice chattering under the whip of wind. Meanwhile, out here in the complicity and amplitude, brazen in their plainness, fin and wing and wave are one motion. Hawk takes off with a nestling, then a hammering dive of the plover's chase. Gull after gull drops the clam on the rocky flats and knows how to peck out the salty meat. Over and over, nature does one thing, and this is the difference. I, who have lived my life intent on direction, now I am blank, no destination after all. And she whom I called desire, called must and act, oh goodbye, that idea striking me with her impertinence, her stone. Not myself. For the first time, I could see a link between me and all the other impossibly dead, or the ones who had gripped the dead in their arms. The soldiers screaming, "Buddy, stay with me." Newspapers brought it all home. Ruined men, their women eyeing them. And the ones left, as if my kin, dragging their bodies around on little sleds, lucky encounters with landmines, numb as mothers, no longer counting days. No longer did I gaze into the abandoned orchard's frozen remove. What could be new in the wind's blank resolve cracking the branches? Or to think winter's clinch could have anything to do with finality. Want was an unsolved puzzle I threw away from my being. Without became my within. Let's say I was no longer bound to the old self. She hadn't known she could be broken. Dyskinesia. The wind blew up and over, cold moved in, and that insisting note trained on the lip of a bottle, teasing me with something beautiful. May wind comes blooming, dark side of dove call, spring's warning under the promise of light at 5 a.m. Something beneath birdsong flew the air through the flimsy north-facing windows and found me. First, it was a simple tapping, mysterious argument of my foot against the ancient floor. Then my right side with its jerk, its skinny flim-flam dance, crazy arm obeying whatever spirit had flown. Time now for my body's answer. The body inhabited. How could I not fall? The news at 2 a.m. It can make you crazy if you listen to your heartbeat long enough. But when I get up in the night, it's not me, not really. Instead, the one who flails and freezes, her body, now some clumsy other. Walking in this dark is all about the wall. Try not to stumble into the painting of the sea you love. Don't hit the dune shack photo you've sent flying. Keep your roving hands waist high if you can. Go slow, I tell her. Travel the wall, the comforting law of the wall, keeping her upright, straight, shuffling my steps like a drunk, feeling my way for what little thing might trip her, trying to make it down the hall with nothing more than bruises. All this trouble with pronouns comes from having been taken over. You, me, and her, divided by news I can't fathom. Arm, etc. Arm has become her own machine and stuck on the job of reaching. All the rules broken in some other language dragged from the depths. The brain's got secrets that even Arm doesn't know. Arm no longer cares for anything hand might want to do, and hand gets pulled along. Sullen child, poor hand, caught in a vise, stiffened by its throb and drum. Arm still insisting, holding hand behind my back, mad tapping to keep from being dragged away. What a story. Me walking with a stick along the beloved beach, and Arm refuses, starts up directing the waves, flying out in the good beach air as we all try to look away. Can't stop, says hand. Can't balance, leg says. This is how the body wakes me up, and this is how she knocks me down. This sorrow is all about my mother. Did I not believe her stuttered spoon to mouth, soup on the floor, her level black eye entering me? She could slap my face now, hand could, in this boring chorus of saying. But sometimes hand flies up to pat my shoulder or curls close by my side, pretends to sleep. Sweet pet, doesn't want Arm to make me weep. Then when I start to forget, hand runs off, slams the glass, the plate, the sink. And as for the little slave fingers in the grab, they just let go. Mother. When I can't walk, I think of you. I catch your light in my mirror and see it find my sallow cheek, the failing line of jaw. Without looking, I can feel that grimace or wince overtake me, just a second's worth of you in the future of my face. Nothing fails to remind me. A finger on my arm, a twisting in my back when I turn too fast and fall. Tired of my arrogance, you were behind me with time to show me how you felt, to be a shell left empty and waiting. So it is that I steer my body out into the crowded what has been. Because of you, I've come to love a broken thing. The old self. I have always loved the world, wanted the world to love me back. Though I see this was a bargain I tried to make, some effort toward God I thought was necessary. All my life, it has been one thing changed for another. If this, then that. Once running at dawn, I stood on a precipice overlooking the summer Atlantic, thrilled to tears. Tears made it real, that earnest pulsing beauty below me, making me a part of the alive and purposeful. Now, when I wake to pain, there's no path but the one leading to submission. Pain has claimed the territory, bringing down the flags, love, ambition, promise, the formerly beautiful country made of belief. Going under. Just two more. One more step toward the wave, as though I need evidence of this world going under. Everything tells me how much worse it can be, having come to the point that murder, like everything else, has a rank and file. One thing about horror, the more you know it, the more you can't bear. No one wants to hear the actual gun firing, the camera catching it all, as it did in North Carolina this morning. My daughter teaches her class of 5-year-olds. We practice emergency because a big mean animal might get in the building and we have to hide. How much easier in this fall-filled Vermont weather to have a slice of pie. And when winter does arrive, blizzard on the doorstep, the driveway iced and pitiless, we could be in a bowl, protected by the sum of things, locked in, watching the small worry of a bird struggling to fly through the white onslaught. Oh, so much easier, even a flock of frozen birds. And how to put that next to a child's version of the world going under. Good, bad, and the lesson of love. That one small word, light enough to carry around. Actually, I think I'm going to read two more. Being apart. Again, some new curiosity turns me this way and that. If I leave for a few minutes, the world changes, resisting my hold on time. It is a planet, after all, with its own moon and the night's business to do. I catch myself wondering how to say goodbye, but I am tired of goodbyes, as I am tired of trying to resist. The infinite variety of the same wakes me every day, this illness that makes me see myself apart from all the rest. Around me, there is always more. At this moment, jackhammers clatter away in the street as a hulking machine lays down new pavement over cracks and holes. So much work to keep us from falling. And it's comforting to go into the water at its peak. I've seen the bottom, I know it's there, as I know the submerged rocks, the exact location of the boulder's decided row. I could be shoved against them, thrown. Tonight, under the tropical sky, colors of a bruise, the indifferent, ongoing tide shuffles in, 1 hour at a time. Silver. The design I see is extraordinary. Why watch for hummingbirds when I am caught by the spider web strung in 3 layers outside my kitchen window? Silver linking silver fence, its chain anchoring one end, the roof's overhang studded twice. A geometric pattern, a trick of the light this hot morning after a hot night. The net holds a constellation of tiny bugs, inconsequential flights that ended here. A white moth spinning, and as I look closer, 3 long silver hairs, my own, I have to assume, migrated from my deck chair and made pure and purposeful. I'm in a kind of sleep, so think to free the fluttering caught thing. The moth's wing falls off in my hand. Poor thing, I tell myself. Wake up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cleopatra. Now I'd like to introduce Sydney Lee, our next reader. Sydney Lee, a former Pulitzer Prize finalist, founded and for 13 years edited the New England Review. His 20th book and his 13th collection of poems, Here, was released in late 2019. This coming winter, Vermont's Green Writers Press will publish Seen from All Angles, Lyric and Everyday Life, Sid's collected newspaper columns from his years as Vermont Poet Laureate, 2011 through 2015. His mock epic graphic poem, The Exquisite Triumph of Worm Boy, in collaboration with former Vermont cartoonist laureate James Kachalka, is due out this autumn. Welcome, Sid Lee. Sid, you need to unmute. There you go.
Got it. Well, thank you very much, Dawn, and thank you, Cleopatra. There are a few people I love more than I love Cleopatra, and there are a few people I admire more. But I've told her, as you know, Cleopatra, that I think that the new section of this new book is the best work she's done. It's extraordinarily moving and extraordinarily deft. So it's a pleasure to be in her company always, but perhaps especially under this circumstance. I'm going to read, I don't know, maybe 6 poems. You can't stop me. I guess you can. You can just mute me if you want to. But the first one is called The Owl and I, and the only background I'll give you, it may be somewhat timely for unfortunate reasons. My dad in World War II was a company commander of so-called colored troops in the old segregated army. And he had many shameful tales to tell, such as when Lena Horne came to entertain the troops and the Nazi prisoners sat up front and the blacks stood in the back of the hall, just for one example. At any rate, I came within an ace of being born in Alabama because that's where he was stationed before he went to Wales and then on to Normandy. The owl and I. Once the Jim Crack cross got burned on our lawn, my mother took off back north to have me. My father was stationed at Gadsden, Alabama before the Second Great War, commander of so-called colored troops. And he'd invited a few of his men inside the house, it seems. A radical thing indeed just then in the heart of Jim Crow Dixie. So my mother escaped giving birth down there, though I don't have any idea why I'd think of this, which, near to her death, she spoke of so many years later. Why now, on watching a barred owl glide to a hemlock gone dark at sundown, everything else as well going dark around me, here where I stand? Once at midnight, she thought she'd heard a whoop of human anguish and wondered whether some soldier was being lynched outside. My father went for a look, but found nothing. My lifelong relations with my mother were vexed, I now suspect, because in part because between us two stood a lot in common. Jews were being crammed into cattle cars then, but for Dad and those troops, the evil in Europe lay several months ahead. Still, real or imagined, that cry of mortal misery stuck with Mother. Though no signs of nearby violence turned up next morning, the company came en masse to mess. Shit on a shingle, as the GIs said, dried beef on toast. So life went on, at least for a while, more or less. It ought to bring comfort that I'm where I am, aging but safe, my kin constantly swelling as sons and daughters produce their sons and daughters. And winter so harsh this year, giving way at last to spring, with snowdrops glinting, the freshets making their evanescent cascades through the woods. I recall how my mother loved this season. Why then this lonely sensation? It feels that I'm in some pitch black tunnel and won't get out again. That this, as the saying has it, is it. That all I'll have at the end, of course there can't be anything to it, is a sorrowful 8-note anthem of that single owl, the sound just now having reached my vexed old head, though I'd be foolish to think that a song was addressed to anyone human. Pinch me, my oldest child is 48 now, but I vividly remember teaching him to ride a bicycle, and that's what this poem, rather tight and strict formally, is about, old lessons. The metaphor felt so handy, it also felt trite. I wanted my son to depend on me forever, but I wanted him too to learn to ride a bike, first phase, of course, in a first child's setting out away from his father. Farther, always farther. Speed up, please stop, I thought. Mixed feeling, trite. Knuckles pale, he clutched the handlebars tight, cried, hold me, which needless to say I did, for week after week while he learned to ride a bike. At last, as one June day slumped into night, I took my hands away from fender and seat, and he pedaled off into darkness and distance. Trite, looking back, to figure our future lives, the changes that would come, the way he'd speed away on years as I stood behind that bike. It's right, of course, that he no longer calls me to hold him. Have confidence, I remember, that's what I told him. Though it wasn't really a question of riding a bike. And my feelings really were never entirely trite. Cleopatra read a poem which mentions frozen birds. I guess I'll do the same, although it has birds in it, but I'm the one that's freezing. Anyway, it's called I Keep Going at 20 Below. It's too cold for me to stay out long at my age, so I trek the half-mile road below our shed, its earth deep hidden beneath the white. Far east, Black Mountain shows up, starkly edged on a sky full of crystals. My boots on frigid ground are cheeping loudly enough that with these bad ears, I can't right off discern another sound. Pine siskins by the score. They yammer from every evergreen in sight. Well, I used to plow on snowshoes through powder, hour on hour. It shames me to say that the notion scares me some now. Still, it's hard to keep with wistfulness when air keeps glittering so, and creatures no bigger than thumbs keep at their sustenance, dauntless. Each bird tears at bough tips, feeding and tweeting. I focus on one that worries the sparkling tip of a spruce cone, eats, then darts to another. Beyond the bird, beyond the conifers in which it sat, beyond the outlying mountain, well, what passes even beyond bright air? And who's to sense it? Not I. It's birdsong that prompts such opening phrases. Beyond all this, let time complete the sentence. Many years ago, 60, I think now, unfortunately, there's a camp that's been in our family on the New Brunswick border in Maine for 4 generations now, and I was there by myself and early in summer, and I beheld a terrific forest fire of a kind that we don't get in the East much anymore. Maybe we rake enough or something. Never mind that. remember Mr. Trump saying that we should rake our woods and then we wouldn't have forest fires, but that's off the point, to be sure, thank God. At any rate, nowadays we have better surveillance equipment and better firefighting equipment, and our woods compared to the Western ones are almost inflammable. But this one burned all summer long and into the fall until the snow came in the fashion that wildfires do. They get down into the forest duff and they sneak along for a while and then they come up again, and they have to be kept an eye on. I knew an old man up there, a wonderful man, poet, as a matter of fact, popular poet, though he could barely read or write, who said that he kept himself employed all one summer by being designated the watchman over a fire, and he said all you needed was a little jug of kerosene and you could keep it going as long as you wanted to. So at all events, this is remembers that fire and a dream. I don't usually like to write about dreams in poems because who wants to hear somebody else's dreams? But anyway, it's called Fire and Jewel. 80-foot hemlock, spruce, fir, pine, they kept lifting off their stumps like so many rockets, smoke trails and all. And I beheld the fire across lake from where I drifted. I'd been plumbing the water for fish when my eyes were lifted. 60 years later, I still recall my thoughts and how I felt that to think them was more than odd. I was glad I had faculties to behold the hill's astonishing orange heat as it flared to white with each explosion. Then the whole of the conflagration bending toward earth, a horizontal wall, a monolith that somehow tore downhill in a sudden fury of wind. It was gorgeous. Several hours would go by till I learned Earl Bailey was forced to fly as quickly as he could on his dozer down from the ridge right into Farm Cove. He just had to take the loss. It was that or burn. Donald Chambers, wielding an axe in his turn with a makeshift crew, collapsed from labor and heat. Paul, the storekeeper, dragged him away. I knew Don, sadly, just a few more years. He and Earl and Paul, good, honest men. I can't account for dreams like the one last night when I watched that fire again. In what seemed again pure quiet, serene, the same jetliner as years ago crossed high, the same scent rose, torch needles, caustic smoke. The same evil roar came on as I rocked in the same canoe, the waves still slapping its hull. In an hour, 6 decades back, the length of that ridgeline turned the color of onyx. The latest of my wife's birthdays will soon be upon us. Is that why the dream passed smoothly into the next one? I saw precisely a beautiful onyx stone hung on her breast from a slip of chain. I'd never dreamt such a woman as that hillside blackened. Would meet her for years. Today, I drove to a jewelry shop as if still dreaming. 300 miles to the west of that little mountain, I bought the necklace and felt some fire in my being. Mild version of one that kindled in that old autumn, which has, for a long time, underground, kept burning. A grandson sleeps on my chest. What am I doing for time here? The thread of drool from his lip to my shirt shows lovely, prismatic, refracting the beams of this fine, warm April sun as I loll on a couch. Those colors won't blend with the song from the classic country station I just tuned in. Hank Williams is just so damn lonely, it almost kills him. There's a dog asleep too in a circle of light on the rug near a pair of rattles, a teething ring, and a bear that his late great grandmother made by hand years back for the sweet child's father. Oh, I could get going on how that father, our son, has become such a good big man, when only yesterday, as the cliche has it, I held him just this way. Oh, I could get going all right about the absence of the sweet-mannered woman who fashioned the bear, twice the size of this boy in my arms. I could fret again that maybe I've come up short as man or parent or husband. But no, I won't be going that way or those. Hank's midnight train is whining low, while here I hear only lyrical breathing and the odd and oddly comical infant gurgle. A scent from the grandson's crown wafts up. That's when all preachments waft up too, all vanities, worries, to die their sudden death. And finally, as if we're not all already implicit that I'm still besotted with my wife of almost 40 years, I'll read this poem called Gift. Some weeks ago, it looked as though sparse snow had fallen in a straight line beside the lane where we walk our dogs. That seemed odd. But it was only the year's wild strawberry blossoms. Today, that small drift vanished again. The fruit is ready for reaping. But then, how little one gathers for the effort involved. The berries, more whole than meat, are stingy, and my back is creaky and my fingers are clumsy. When our children were small, they could sometimes be chores, beautiful chores, but chores nonetheless. Now we'd have them back. They grew up so fast. 10 minutes of picking, scanty harvest. It seems, as my grandmother used to mutter, not worth the candle, though no candle is called for. The late spring morning, crisp and alive, lit by a thousand greens from the arch of trees, and no matter, I lean a bit at the waist, having stooped to my task for meager reward. When I reach our door, my matchless wife is standing there. My wife, opened arms at an open door. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sid. And thank you, Cleopatra, for a wonderful reading. I hope this is the last reading in the Conference for Poetry and Teaching series.